My ex-husband, the one who trampled on my pride, and his new wife came to see the penthouse of my building. Hello everyone, how is your day going? I hope you are always healthy and happy, and that you keep arrogant people far away from you. The story I bring you today is about a woman who was despised and humiliated by her ex-husband and his new wife. A situation that hurts just to imagine, but here is where the plot takes a turn. What would happen if the place where they show off their wealth was actually your property? The protagonist of this story, Solani, reunites with her ex-husband Jelani and his new wife and shameless mistress, Kalina. Kalina, with an air of superiority, says, Well, look who it is, the little loner. Honey, it makes me sad to see you so all alone. But not even in her wildest dreams could she imagine that the floor she is walking on belongs to the luxurious penthouse owned by Jelani. How embarrassed will they feel when they discover the truth? Isn't it satisfying just to think about it? The end of this story will bring you intense satisfaction in a very elegant way. Before we dive into this intense drama, take a moment to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to turn on notifications. Your support is my greatest strength. All right, are you ready to see the moment when arrogance is punished with a cold smile? Let's start now. The morning sun spilled through the glass walls of a skyscraper that stood imposing in the heart of Atlanta. In the penthouse on the top floor, a beautiful woman dressed in an elegant power suit contemplated the hustle and bustle of the city at her feet. Her name was Solani. On her finger, a diamond ring, simple but of undeniable sophistication, shone discreetly. She was no longer the Solani of the past. The woman who always bowed her head and hid her tears behind her pillow had disappeared. Now she was the owner of this exclusive apartment, the Onyx Tower, the same building she was standing on. At that moment, the sound of firm footsteps approached. A handsome man with a strong build and dressed in an impeccable suit approached and wrapped his arms gently around her shoulders. It was Solani's current husband, Dakari, the man who had brought back the smile she had lost for years. "What are you thinking about, babe? The meeting with the investors is about to start," Dakari asked with a warm voice. His gaze was full of love, completely different from the cold indifference she used to receive from her ex-husband. Solani sighed and sketched a faint smile. "I just still can't believe it. Before, I couldn't even dream of having a small apartment in a basement, and now I'm at the very top of my own building. It all seems like a dream." Dakari squeezed her hand. "It's not a dream, Solani. It's the result of your hustle, your tears, and your prayers. You deserve all of this. You are no longer the weak woman they abandoned." Dakari's words transported Solani 5 years back. The wounds had healed, but the scars remained vivid in her memory. That was the darkest day of her life. In the cramped living room of her in-laws' house, cluttered with flashy objects to fake wealth, Solani was kneeling on the cold floor. In front of her, her ex-husband Jelani and her ex-mother-in-law. Their faces were flushed with irrational, useless anger. The words of her then mother-in-law echoed in her ears. Her accusing finger pointed directly at Solani's face. "Look at Kalina. She's a career woman, beautiful, and makes serious money. And what are you? A parasite that just consumes in this house. Our Jelani needs a woman who elevates the family's status, not a burden like you." Solani remembered perfectly having tried to defend herself with a trembling voice. "But ma'am, I also worked to help Jelani. My paycheck wasn't very high, but I always did my best. Please, with your minimum wage you could barely afford your hair products," Jelani interrupted her with a hurtful tone. There wasn't an ounce of defense in the man who once swore to protect her. On the contrary, he arrogantly wrapped his arm around the waist of the other woman standing next to him. It was Kalina. Kalina flipped her long weave back and laughed with disdain. "Leave it, Jelani. If you keep getting mad, you'll only make this poor thing feel worse. Kick her out already. And I told you that if you were clear with her, I could pay the car note this month." Those words were the final nail in Solani's coffin. Her pride was trampled on for money. Jelani chose the sophisticated and wealthy Kalina, abandoning Solani, who had supported him with devotion since he had nothing. Pack your bags right now, Zalani. As of today, we are divorced, Jelani shouted without hesitation. I'm sick of living in poverty with you. I want to be happy with Kalina. The mother-in-law let out a laugh of satisfaction. Did you hear? Get out at once, and don't you even think about taking anything from this house other than those rags you're wearing. That day, Solani left that house dragging an old suitcase under torrential rain. Her tears had dried up a long time ago. She swore inside herself that she would never again allow anyone to look down on her. She would rise, she would triumph, and she would prove that the diamond they threw away would shine brighter than anything they had ever owned. Solani. Dakari's voice brought her back to the present. Solani blinked, dissipating the shadows of her dark past. She looked at Dakari, the man who truly loved her unconditionally, the man who found her when she was picking up the pieces of her life and helped her build this palace. Sorry, baby, I was lost in old memories, she said softly. The past is gone, love. Now you are the queen of your own palace, Dakari reassured her. Oh, by the way, Mr. Thorne says there are some prospective tenants who insist on seeing the penthouse on this floor. They say they are important people and are willing to pay a good price. Do you want to receive them yourself, or should we leave it to Mr. Thorne? Zalani adjusted her blazer. Her imposing aura resurfaced. Let them see, whoever they are. If they can pay, they are our clients, but I prefer to observe from a distance first. I don't want just anyone messing up our masterpiece. Dakari nodded. Understood. Then, let's go down to the lobby for a moment to check that everything is ready at the reception. I've been told the clients have already arrived and are parking. They headed to the private elevator. Zalani did not know that Destiny had prepared a surprising encounter for her. Downstairs, a rented black sedan had just entered the lobby area of the building. Inside were a restless Jelani, a Kalina who wouldn't stop touching up her makeup in the mirror, and Jelani's mother, who wouldn't stop marveling at the majesty of the building through the window. This is wild, Jelani. Now this is a luxury building, exclaimed Kalina with sparkling eyes. Can you imagine the envy of my friends at the country club when they find out I live in this penthouse? You have the money for the rent, right? Jelani wiped a drop of cold sweat from his forehead. You have plenty, babe. Don't worry, for you I'd do anything. But inside, Jelani knew he had drained all his emergency savings just to keep up appearances. Great, intervened his mother from the back seat. I can't wait to show off to the neighbors. We have to show them how successful my Jelani is, not like that Solani who knows how her life is going. On the ground floor, the elevator doors opened with a soft ding. Solani walked out elegantly alongside Dakari. At that precise instant, the automatic glass doors of the lobby slid open. The three people from her past entered, decked out and ready to face a destiny that would turn their arrogance upside down. Zalani hadn't seen them yet, but the air in the lobby felt heavy, as if a storm was about to break. The clicking of Kalina's heels resonated with special stridency on the gleaming marble floor of the Onyx Tower. She walked as if she were a supermodel, with her sunglasses deliberately placed on her head to hold back her perfect hairstyle. In her right hand, a flashy designer bag, as if she expected all eyes to focus on her. Behind, Jelani's mother followed with a forced smile, striving to match the style of her ostentatious daughter-in-law. Jelani, meanwhile, walked last with a step that denoted anything but confidence. Every now and then he patted his jacket pocket to make sure his wallet was still there. Cold sweat began to run down his temples. Although the lobby's air conditioning was working perfectly, his mind was in chaos. His bank account balance was in the red, but vanity and Kalina's insistence had led him to set foot in that luxurious place. "Babe, walk with more swag," Kalina whispered in a low but firm voice, yanking his arm sharply when she saw he was lagging a few steps behind. "We are going to be the tenants of the penthouse. Don't walk like you're the delivery guy. How embarrassing." Jelani swallowed hard. His throat was dry. "Does it really have to be the penthouse, love? I saw the brochure and the rent is super expensive. I mean, the deluxe type apartment on a middle floor is also very nice. It has the same views of the city. There isn't much difference. Kalina's eyes widened like saucers. She stopped dead in her tracks, causing her mother-in-law to almost crash into her. Are you joking? My friends' husbands at the club are mining entrepreneurs, high-ranking officials, owners of export companies. They all live in penthouses or luxury villas. And I, the wife of the young entrepreneur Jelani, am going to live in a deluxe pigeon coop? What image will I project when my girlfriends come to visit me? The mother-in-law intervened immediately to defend her dear daughter-in-law. Kalina is right. Jelani, what is wrong with you? A beautiful wife needs facilities at her level. Don't think like your ex-wife. That Solani girl was from the sticks. You gave her a little room in a basement, and she was happy enough. But our Kalina is an asset to the family. She must be treated like a queen. If you become stingy, luck will slip away from you. Jelani sighed without daring to contradict his mother. But inside, he wanted to scream that his luck was slipping away precisely by keeping up with the lifestyle of the two of them. His printing business was doing poorly. Debts were piling up, and he had just taken out an online loan to pay the deposit for this apartment and pretend to be a winner in front of Kalina's family. Yes, Mama, it was just a suggestion, he replied weakly. They headed back towards the reception desk, which looked imposing with its black granite walls and a crystal chandelier. There, several employees in impeccable uniforms greeted visitors with kindness. Kalina dropped her bag on the counter, producing a dull thud to get attention. Excuse me, we are here to see the penthouse on the top floor. It's still available, right? My husband will pay for the year in advance in cash if necessary, she said loudly, so everyone around her could hear. The receptionist was a bit surprised by Kalina's tone, but smiled politely. Good afternoon, ma'am. Welcome to the Onyx Tower. Yes, that is correct. The royal penthouse on the top floor has recently been remodeled and is ready to be occupied. However, to visit the unit, you must first go through an identity verification process and be accompanied by one of our senior agents. Identity verification? Why so many complications? We are rich, not some bums looking to spend the night here, snapped the mother-in-law, losing her patience. My son is the director of a company. He has plenty of money. It's just swiping the card. There is no need to complicate it so much. Jelani intervened quickly before his mother caused a bigger scene. Excuse me, it's just that my mother doesn't like to wait. Please, process it as quickly as possible. Under Jelani's name, he handed over his ID with a trembling hand. While the receptionist processed the information, Kalina took out her smartphone. She started a live stream on her social media, pointing the camera toward the high and luxurious ceiling of the lobby. Hey everyone, I'm at my new apartment. Look how wild this is. It's super luxurious. My husband is the best. He felt bad that I was living in a normal house. Pray that the contract goes well, guys. As soon as I have the keys, I'll give you a tour. Kalina chattered to the camera with an affected and sugary tone. Jelani could only look at his wife with a vacant expression. He remembered the times with Solani. She never asked for anything, even saving on daily expenses to gather money for Jelani's business. Back then he thought Solani was boring and unsociable. Now drowning in debts to maintain Kalina's lifestyle, Solani's simplicity tormented him like a silent remorse. Oh, excuse me, asked Kalina suddenly to the receptionist, snapping Jelani out of his thoughts. What are the neighbors like here? I mean, are they people of our level? I hate having ghetto or noisy neighbors. The receptionist smiled with an enigmatic air. Don't worry, ma'am. The residents of the penthouse are very select people. In fact, the owner of the building herself frequently uses her private office on this very floor. She is a person of great distinction. That's how I like it. That is our level, right, Mama? Kalina said proudly, nudging her mother-in-law. Maybe I'll even become close friends with the owner. Maybe she can do business with Jelani. The mother-in-law nodded enthusiastically. Of course, honey. That's how high society relationships are, not like that Solani's neighborhood where only vegetable sellers from the market went in and out. They laughed quietly, mocking the past, not knowing that the owner of the building they spoke of with such hope was actually the person they detested most and wanted to avoid. Destiny seemed to be setting the biggest stage to strip their farce bare in just a few moments. "Mr. Jelani, Mrs. Kalina," called a marketing agent who had just come out of the elevator. "This way, please. I will show you the unit." Just as they turned to follow the agent, the doors of a private elevator in a corner of the lobby opened, but Kalina and Jelani, absorbed in their phones and their chat, didn't see who had just stepped out. Barely a few feet separated them, but the abyss of destiny between them was already immense. The agent, named Mr. Vance, guided the small group down a hallway of elevators with golden marble walls, enthusiastically explaining the facilities of the infinity pool and the private gym, for exclusive use by residents of the upper floors. Kalina nodded, adjusting every so often the sunglasses she didn't need indoors. Meanwhile, Jelani's mother was busy touching a huge vase in a corner of the hallway to check if it was real. "This elevator on the right is exclusive for the Penthouse and VIP residents, so privacy is completely guaranteed," explained Mr. Vance while pressing the call button. In the instant the elevator doors opened with a ding and the light turned on, his attention shifted to two people standing not far away. A woman in an impeccable cream-colored dress without flashy prints was speaking seriously with a man by her side. The woman held a tablet, and the man took notes occasionally on his phone. The first to recognize them was Jelani. His steps stopped dead. His face, already pale, lost all color. His heart was racing, not out of love, but out of a mixture of fear and shame. Xolani," he murmured almost involuntarily. His voice got stuck in his throat. Upon hearing the name, Kalina turned her head sharply, narrowed her eyes, and scanned the woman in the cream dress from head to toe. A few seconds later, her lips twisted into a contemptuous smile. "Well, well, what a small world, honey." Kalina's shrill voice resonated in the silent hallway. She approached deliberately, closing the distance with Xolani. Xolani stopped talking to Dakari and turned her head slowly. Her face was serene. There wasn't a hint of surprise. It was as if she were looking at a lost stranger. Her gaze was soft but piercing, completely different from the Xolani of 5 years ago, who always bowed her head in fear. "Well then, what are you doing here?" blurted Kalina, crossing her arms and looking at Xolani with a critical and challenging stare. "You wouldn't happen to be selling insurance in this expensive building? Or is it that you clean here now?" The mother-in-law stepped forward immediately to stand next to her daughter-in-law. She wrinkled her nose as if she smelled something unpleasant, even though a soft and expensive vanilla perfume emanated from Xolani. "No wonder the air suddenly got stale," she said loudly with sarcasm. "Turns out it stunk of past failure. Step aside. Don't get in the way of successful people." Jelani stood frozen behind his mother, not daring to look Xolani in the eyes. He felt insignificant. Although Xolani dressed simply, without his mother's flashy jewelry or Kalina's giant logo bags, a powerful dignity emanated from his ex-wife. But Jelani's panic-stricken brain refused to admit it. He preferred to cling to his mother's idea that Xolani must be in a tough situation. Dakari's jaw, standing next to Xolani, began to tense. His hands were already clenched into fists, ready to reprimand the rudeness of the two women in front of him. As a husband who adored Xolani, he couldn't stand them insulting her in her own building. "Excuse me, but watch your words," Dakari started to say, but a soft hand his arm. Xolani shook her head and signaled him with her eyes. "Not yet. Stay still." Then Xolani looked alternately at her ex-mother-in-law and Kalina. There was no anger in her voice, only a cold and indifferent tone. "Go ahead, Mrs. Kalina. This hallway is wide enough for everyone. I'm not in anyone's way." "What an attitude she has," huffed Kalina, rolling her eyes. She pulled on the arm of Jelani, who was still paralyzed. "Let's go, babe. Don't look at her anymore. Don't want the poverty to rub off on us. We have to go up to see our palace." The mother-in-law spat discreetly to the side. Luckily, it didn't hit the marble floor, but it was a clear sign of contempt. "And let it be clear to you, Xolani, don't you even think about coming to ask Jelani for money when you see us living here. We will act like we don't know you." Xolani merely smiled slightly, a smile whose meaning was difficult for them to decipher. Of course, ma'am. I promise you that your son won't have to beg for a single dime. Enjoy the visit. The marketing agent, Mr. Vance, who had felt uncomfortable witnessing the family drama, hastened to guide his clients toward the already open elevator. This way, please, folks. The elevator is ready. Jelani's group entered the elevator. Just before the doors closed, Kalina gave Solani a mocking farewell gesture. Jelani, for his part, lowered his head deeply, avoiding a last exchange of glances with the woman he had abandoned. The elevator doors closed. The digital numbers above began to ascend. After their departure, silence reigned again in the lobby hallway. Dakari let out the air he had been holding, his breath agitated by suppressed anger. Why did you stay quiet, babe? Those two have poison on their tongues. I wanted to call security right now to have them thrown out. Zolani looked back at her tablet screen as if nothing had happened, as if the insult a moment ago had just been a gust of wind. She tapped the screen a couple of times, checking the status of the penthouse her ex-husband was heading to. Losing our temper in the lobby would only lower us to their level, honey, she replied wisely. She looked at her husband sweetly. Let them fly high for now. The higher they fly with arrogance, the more painful the fall will be when they realize their wings are fake. Zolani turned her head toward the elevator that carried Jelani. It's not the best comedy of the day. They want to brag about property in a place whose deed is in our safe. Dakari remained silent for a moment, and then a smile of admiration appeared on his face. He caressed Solani's head. You are incredible. Your patience is terrifying, babe. Come on, love, to the CCTV control room, said Solani, walking toward the staff elevator. I want to make sure our special guests receive the service they deserve and a surprise they won't forget in this life. Meanwhile, in the elevator rising at full speed, Kalina kept complaining. Ugh, what bad luck. They soured my day, she grumbled, while looking at herself in the mirror on the elevator wall. By the way, honey, did you see her clothes? Looked like swap meet fabric, totally bland. She must be having a terrible time since you divorced. Yeah, it seems so, replied Jelani dryly, but his mind was elsewhere. He had seen out of the corner of his eye the watch the man with Solani was wearing. Jelani knew that watch. It was a limited edition that cost the same as a 3-bedroom apartment. Who was that man? If Solani was poor, why was the man by her side wearing such luxury? That question began to eat away at his peace of mind, but he was too afraid to find the answer. Ding! The elevator doors opened on the top floor. The true spectacle of wealth now unfolded before their eyes, ready to trap them in the illusion they themselves had created. When the elevator doors opened slowly, the mouths of the chatty Kalina and her mother-in-law snapped shut, not out of fear, but out of pure amazement. Before them stretched a living room that was at least 3 times larger than the rental apartment they lived in. The white marble floor with gold veins reflected the light of a gigantic crystal chandelier that hung majestically from the 20-foot-high ceiling. Huge glass windows stretched from wall to wall, offering a breathtaking panoramic view of the metropolis at their feet. The low clouds seemed to be at eye level, giving the sensation of being in a palace in the sky. "My God!" exclaimed the mother-in-law. Her eyes seemed to pop out of their sockets. Her hands trembled as she touched the cream-colored leather sofa, which looked incredibly soft in the center of the room. This is heaven on earth, son. Just this sofa must cost more than our neighbor's car." Kalina was not far behind. She ran straight to the large window and opened her arms as if she wanted to embrace the entire city. "Incredible! Incredible! This is the life, baby!" she shouted euphorically. She spun around, and the skirt of her dress puffed out. Then she looked at Jelani with bright, demanding eyes. "Look at this, honey. This landscape is perfect for the background of my social media promo photos. I don't care. We have to live here, period." The marketing agent, Mr. Vance, smiled politely. It was a professional smile trained to deal with clients who are easily dazzled by luxury. "This is the Royal Suite type. It has an area of 3,800 square feet. Smart home system, 3 bedrooms with ensuite bathrooms, a private office, and exclusive access to a helipad if necessary." "Helipad!" exclaimed the mother-in-law, ecstatic. She hit Jelani hard on the shoulder. "Did you hear, Jelani? A helipad? That means that when we are even richer, we can buy a helicopter and park it upstairs. Oh, I imagine the face that corner store clerk will make when she finds out we live in such a spectacular place. She'll have a heart attack." Jelani could only force a tense smile on his face. He clutched the price sheet he had just received from Mr. Vance tightly. The figures it contained churned his stomach. The annual rent was equivalent to 2 years of revenue from his printing business, assuming it went well. But the reality is that right now, the business was completely stagnant. "Babe, why are you standing there? Take some pictures of me," urged Kalina, posing with her legs crossed on the black granite bar counter. "Quick, and get the angle to make me look elegant." Jelani obeyed with a tired step, took out his phone and photographed his wife, who posed busily as if she were the queen of the world. On his phone screen, a notification from an online loan app appeared fleetingly. "Your loan payment is due today. Please make the payment immediately to avoid penalties." Jelani hastened to swipe the notification away before Kalina saw it. "Very well, Mr. Vance," said Jelani, trying to make his voice sound deep and authoritative, although cold sweat continued to run down his back. "But is there any special discount if we pay in cash? I mean, if we pay a year in advance?" Kalina frowned upon hearing the word discount. "Honey, don't be cheap. A rich person doesn't ask for discounts like they're buying peppers at the market. Just pay. What is wrong with you? You are a businessman." Mr. Vance nodded understandingly. "Of course, there is a small discount for paying a year in cash in advance, sir. However, the management policy of this building is very strict. In addition to the rent, you must deposit today a security deposit equivalent to 3 months of rent so we can reserve this unit and ensure no one else contracts it." 3 months. Jelani's breath hitched. That meant he had to shell out hundreds of thousands of dollars right today. "That's nothing," intervened his mother arrogantly. She walked around inspecting the kitchen equipped with imported appliances. "Pay it, Jelani. Don't think about it. It's for the prestige of our family. You wouldn't want to be treated like your ex-wife, right? Look at her. With those clothes, you could tell she couldn't afford this place, even in her dreams." Kalina got down from the bar stool, approached her husband, and linked her arm through his. "That's right, honey. Did you see Solani down there? I imagine how green with envy she'll get when she finds out we live in this penthouse. It's a demonstration, baby, a demonstration that you chose the right woman. I am a diamond, and a diamond doesn't need a cardboard box, but a luxury case." Kalina's words were a double-edged sword. On one hand, she praised herself, and on the other, she pushed Jelani into the abyss. Jelani looked at his wife's heavily made-up face. She was beautiful, yes, but that beauty demanded a price that was drowning him. She was different from the old Solani, who always said, "You don't need to buy me expensive things, honey. Let's save that money for the business." "All right, love. I'll see what I can do," replied Jelani in a low voice, surrendering to his own pride. Mr. Vance looked at his watch. "Very well. Why don't you take a look at the master bedroom? The keys are there. I'll step out for a moment to confirm via phone with my manager the availability of the unit. It seems there is another interested client making an offer." "Another client?" Kalina was alarmed. "You can't give it to another. This is mine, honey. Make the transfer now. Don't let them take it from us." "Enjoy the views in the meantime, folks. I'll be right back," said Mr. Vance, bowing politely before leaving the penthouse. As soon as Mr. Vance left and the door closed, the mother-in-law took off her shoes and threw them carelessly near the door. "Oh, these heels are killing me. Jelani, look if there is a bathtub in the bathroom. I feel like a hot bath tonight." Jelani rubbed his face roughly. "Mama, we haven't signed the contract yet. Don't do weird things." "It's going to be ours in no time," replied Kalina lightly. She headed to the master bedroom. "Honey, come here. This room is wild. The bed is king size, and it has a private balcony inside the luxurious master bedroom." Kalina threw herself onto the fluffy bed, laughing out loud, a laugh of empty victory. "I feel like the Queen of Atlanta. It's incredible that you brought me here, baby. I did well marrying you." Jelani stood in the doorway of the bedroom, watching Kalina roll around on the bed. He put his hand in his pants pocket, took out his phone, and opened the banking app. The figures on the screen were bleak. He racked his brain. Could he call an old friend to borrow money or maybe secretly mortgage his mother's house? Perverse and desperate ideas began to invade his mind. For this boundless vanity, Jelani was willing to do any foolish thing. Meanwhile, in another room of the same building, a pair of eyes watched his movements through a high-resolution monitor screen. Jelani was sitting in a comfortable office chair sipping hot jasmine tea. On the screen, her ex-mother-in-law could clearly be seen trying to open the refrigerator in the penthouse kitchen and Kalina jumping on the bed. "Look, honey," she said in a low voice to Dakari, who was standing beside her. "They think they own the world. Don't they know they are dancing on the edge of a cliff?" Dakari shook his head, seeing the ex-mother-in-law's behavior. That lady throwing her shoes on the freshly polished Italian marble floor. What a lack of manners. "Let them," Solani smiled slightly, but there was determination in her eyes. "Let them fly as high as possible in their fantasy. 5 more minutes. In 5 minutes, Mr. Thorne will enter and wake them from their sweet dream." On the monitor screen, Jelani was seen pacing nervously around the penthouse living room, making an urgent call to someone. Solani could guess that her ex-husband was asking to borrow money. "Actually, I feel a bit sorry for him," murmured Solani, "working so hard just to fill the black hole called appearances." "That is his choice, babe," Dakari reminded her. "Now it's our turn to teach them a lesson about what true ownership is." In the penthouse, Kalina's voice was heard calling her husband. "Jelani, come take a selfie with me on the balcony." The shout echoed off the luxurious walls that would soon become silent witnesses to the fall of their pride. Jelani hung up the phone with a face of frustration. His friend had refused to lend him money. He took a deep breath, put the mask of the fake smile back on, and headed toward his beloved wife, who demanded the world from him. "Yes, honey, I'm coming," answered Jelani as he headed to the balcony, without realizing that his time was running out. The painful moment of truth was approaching them by the second. In the control room, Dakari clenched his fists so hard his knuckles turned white. His gaze did not leave the monitor screen broadcasting live from the penthouse. On the screen, Jelani's mother nonchalantly took a bag of potato chips out of her large purse. She ate greedily and then, without any qualms, brushed the crumbs from her fingers into the crevices of the imported cream leather sofa. "This is too much. Solani, look at your ex-mother-in-law's behavior," growled Dakari. His voice trembled with contained anger. "That sofa cost thousands of dollars. We ordered it specially from Italy, and that woman treats it like it's a bench in a dive bar. I'm going to order the security guards to get them out of there right now. This is vandalism." Dakari tried the intercom to contact the security room, but Solani's soft hand stopped him instantly. Solani looked at her husband with a calm but firm gaze. "Calm down, honey. Don't rush," she said softly. "If you kick them out violently now, they'll play the victim. They'll go around saying the building owner is arrogant. We don't need that kind of cheap drama." "But Solani, they trampled on your pride, and now they are dirtying your house," protested Dakari. "Exactly, babe." Solani smiled slightly, a smile that contained 1,000 meanings. "Let them get big-headed. Let them feel that that sofa, those views, that luxury, everything is theirs. The more they feel they own it, the greater the shock will be when they discover they have no right to it. The mental punishment is much more painful than being kicked out by a security guard." Solani looked back at the monitor screen. "Besides, Mr. Vance is about to return to that room to demand payment. That will be the first act of their fall." Meanwhile, in the penthouse, the atmosphere was like a small party. Kalina had already taken dozens of photos in every corner of the room. She sat next to her mother-in-law, fanning herself with the apartment brochure. "Oh, Mother, when we move here, you have to come visit us often. We'll have a family reunion, so those aunts who criticized us will shut their mouths seeing Jelani's success," chattered Kalina with a proud tone. "Of course, daughter. I am very proud of you. You are a blessing for our Jelani. Not like that other one," "That's Zalani. That one only brought bad luck," replied the mother-in-law while chewing the chips. "Hey, Jelani, why's your face so pale? It's under the air conditioning." Jelani, who was standing by the window, was startled. He quickly wiped the sweat from his forehead. "No, Mama, I'm just a little dizzy. Maybe I haven't had breakfast?" Actually, his head hurt from thinking about where he was going to get hundreds of thousands of dollars in a matter of minutes. Suddenly, the penthouse door opened. The marketing agent, Mr. Vance, re-entered with a card terminal in one hand and a thick folder of contracts in the other. Mr. Vance's face still wore a kind smile, but now his gaze was sharper and more professional. "Sorry for the wait, Mr. Jelani. Mrs. Kalina," he greeted politely. "The good news is that this unit is still available, and my manager has approved reserving it especially for you for today." "That's great!" exclaimed Kalina. "Delighted." She jumped up and hung on Jelani's arm. "See, honey? If you are good, life rewards you. Come on, babe. Pay up already. I'm dying to show off the keys to this apartment on Instagram." Mr. Vance placed the card terminal on the marble table. "Following our company procedure, to secure this royal penthouse unit, you must pay the deposit and the first month's rent right now. The total amount is $100,000. Here you go, Mr. Jelani." That cold room suddenly seemed like an oven to Jelani. The figure of $100,000 resonated in his head like a death sentence. He looked at the terminal with terrified eyes. $100,000, he repeated with a cracked voice. "No, couldn't I transfer it tomorrow? I think I reached my transfer limit for today." Kalina elbowed him hard in the ribs. "Honey, don't be ridiculous. You have that platinum card with a super high limit. Pay with that one." Jelani grimaced. The credit card Kalina was referring to had actually already exceeded its limit last month when he bought her a designer bag, but he couldn't admit it in front of the marketing people and especially in front of his mother. "Ah, yes, one moment." Jelani rummaged in his wallet with trembling hands. He took out a black credit card. Inside, he prayed for a miracle to happen in the bank system and for the transaction to be approved. Mr. Vance took the card and swiped it through the terminal. Beep. Mr. Vance's fingers danced over the numeric buttons. He entered the amount and then held the terminal out to Jelani. "Please enter your PIN." Jelani keyed in the 4 digits with hesitation. The seconds he waited for the receipt to come out felt like hours. Beep. The terminal screen lit up red. It showed a short but lethal message. Transaction declined. "I'm sorry, sir. The transaction has been declined," said Mr. Vance with a neutral tone. Kalina huffed with annoyance. "But why is it declined? Honey, did you enter the PIN wrong because of nerves?" Sure, it's because the chip is dirty," excused Jelani nervously. "Mr. Vance, try it again, please." Mr. Vance tried again. The result was the same. Transaction declined. The mother-in-law was starting to lose patience. "Oh, Jelani, pay with another card and be done with it. Don't make me nervous. How can a businessman's card not go through?" Jelani's face was now red with shame. He took out a debit card from another bank. It was his main account, where he didn't even have $1,000. He knew it wouldn't work, but he had no choice but to buy time. "Try this one," he said weakly. Mr. Vance swiped the card. Jelani entered the PIN, and again a sharp sound came from the terminal. Beep, beep. Insufficient funds. This time Mr. Vance no longer smiled kindly. He looked at Jelani suspiciously. "Excuse me, Mr. Jelani. This card does not have sufficient funds for this operation. Do you have another card, or do you prefer to cancel the reservation?" Kalina's eyes widened. Her face flushed with shame and anger. "Cancel? What are you talking about, Jelani? Do you really intend to rent me an apartment? Why isn't any card working? Are you doing it on purpose so we can't live here?" "That's not it, honey. Surely the bank system is down," excused Jelani. His voice was getting weaker. "Mr. Vance, I am sure there is money. It must be a network error." "I can wait 5 more minutes, sir," said Mr. Vance firmly. His tone had turned cold. "But if the payment is not made, I regret to inform you that you will have to vacate the unit. We have a visit from another VVIP client scheduled shortly." "And who is that VVIP client?" asked the mother-in-law spitefully. "We aren't VIP? My son is rich." In the control room, Solani smiled with satisfaction, seeing the panicked expression on Jelani's face. "The time has come, honey," she said, getting up from her seat and heading to Dakari. "Mr. Vance has done his part. Now it's the building owner's turn to enter the scene to resolve this mess." Dakari nodded and adjusted his jacket. "Let's go. I'm dying to see their faces when they discover who the VVIP client and the owner of this place is." Solani and Dakari left the control room. Their steps were firm as they headed to the penthouse, not to get angry or to shout, but to give Jelani and his family a lesson in humility that would shake the foundations of their arrogance. The real storm was about to begin. The atmosphere in the penthouse, which at first was full of admiration and false hopes, had turned into a small hell for Jelani. The beep of the terminal announcing his failed transaction sounded like a judge's gavel, sentencing his pride to death. Thick drops of sweat ran down his temples, wetting the collar of his expensive shirt, that now felt like a noose. "Jelani, don't stand there like a statue. Do something!" Kalina's sharp scream broke the tense silence. She stomped angrily on the marble floor with her heels. "How embarrassing, my God! How is it possible that a businessman's credit card has no balance? You're doing it on purpose to humiliate me in front of this two-bit salesman, right?" The marketing agent, Mr. Vance, sighed upon hearing two-bit salesman, but kept his professional smile, which now felt icy. "Excuse me, ma'am, I just follow procedure. If the payment fails, I cannot continue reserving the unit." The mother-in-law, unable to stand seeing her proud son cornered, stepped forward immediately and pointed at Mr. Vance's face with a finger adorned with gold rings. "Hey, young man, watch what you say. Don't you dare insinuate that my son's card is empty. Your machine must be broken, or the internet in this building is trash. My son is a multimillionaire. Surely he has the money in a fixed deposit and can't take it out right now." "What would you know about rich people's money?" Jelani nodded hurriedly, clinging to his mother's absurd excuse as if it were a life preserver. "Yes, Mr. Vance. Most of my funds are in long-term deposits and offshore stocks. I forgot to transfer it to my checking account today. Let's do something. Give me an hour. I'll call my financial advisor to process a manual transfer." Mr. Vance shook his head firmly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Jelani. Your time is up. Our system works in real time. If the deposit is not confirmed now, the unit automatically goes to the next person on the waiting list." Mr. Vance grabbed the walkie-talkie on his belt, ready to call security. "And as I told you before, a VVIP guest is about to arrive. I beg you to cooperate and vacate the premises quickly." The word vacate made Kalina's emotions explode. She grabbed the apartment brochure that was on the table and threw it in Mr. Vance's face. The thick paper grazed the agent's cheek and scattered on the floor. "How dare you kick me out?" she shouted hysterically. Her pretty face, now disfigured by anger, looked scary. "You don't know who my husband is. You don't know who I am. I can buy your stupid pride with money. Call your boss right now. I'm going to file a complaint. I'll have you fired today for insulting a future penthouse tenant." Jelani was mortified. He tried to calm his wife down by pulling her arm back. "Honey, calm down. Don't shout. Let's talk things over calmly." "Let me go!" shouted Kalina, pushing Jelani's hand away roughly. "You are soft. Are you standing there while they insult your wife? You should have slapped him. Call your high-ranking friends. Tell them we are being treated unfairly here." The commotion was increasing. The mother-in-law also joined the shouting, accusing Mr. Vance of giving them a broken terminal to scam them. Jelani was trapped between two women demanding he defend them while his wallet was empty. He felt the world spinning. The image of the calm and submissive Jelani suddenly came to his mind in a brutal contrast to Kalina's fury. Just as Mr. Vance was about to press the call button on his walkie-talkie, the main door of the penthouse swung open. "What is all this commotion?" A deep, authoritative, and profound voice resonated throughout the room, instantly silencing Kalina's screams and the mother-in-law's complaints. A middle-aged man in an impeccable gray suit entered, His face was stern, his hair slicked back neatly. On his left chest, he wore a badge with the name Mr. Thorne, General Manager. Behind him, 2 burly security guards waited with their hands behind their backs. Mr. Vance, relieved, bowed immediately as a sign of respect. "Good afternoon, Mr. Director. I apologize for the disturbance. These clients refuse to leave the premises even though their cards have been declined several times and they are being verbally abusive." Mr. Thorne stared at Jelani, Kalina, and the mother-in-law one by one. His gaze was like an X-ray, capable of seeing through their wallets and their battered pride. "So these are the guests causing problems in our building?" he asked coldly. Far from being scared, Kalina felt new hope. She wrongly believed that Mr. Thorne had come to defend them as consumers. She immediately put on a victim expression, although her tone was still arrogant. "Ah, finally the boss arrives. Mr. Director, you should educate your employees better," complained Kalina, pointing at Mr. Vance. "Are you kicking us out for a simple technical problem with the bank? We are money people, Mr. Director. My husband is a successful businessman. We were going to contract this unit for a year in cash, but your service is terrible. I know many lawyers. I could sue this building." The mother-in-law also intervened familiarly. "That's right, Mr. Director. You should compensate us. You haven't even offered us a welcome drink, and you keep demanding money as if we were deadbeats. My son Jelani swims in abundance." Mr. Thorne didn't flinch. He didn't smile even a little. He approached the marble table slowly, picked up the brochure Kalina had thrown in Mr. Vance's face, and wiped it with a handkerchief, as if the brochure had just touched something disgusting. "Folks," Mr. Thorne's voice was low, but loaded with pressure. "In this building, respect is not bought with shouting, but with manners. Our system shows that Mr. Jelani's card has been declined due to insufficient funds. That is not a technical problem. It is a financial fact." Jelani's face turned ashen. His legs failed him hearing that fact, proclaimed aloud in front of strangers. "And as for legal lawsuits," continued Mr. Thorne, looking directly into Kalina's eyes, "we have a complete CCTV recording of you throwing the brochure at my employee. That could constitute assault and a misdemeanor. Do you want us to start the legal proceedings first?" Kalina's jaw dropped. Her mouth, which until a moment ago wouldn't stop hurling insults, was now firmly shut. Her arrogance deflated instantly. "But," stuttered the mother-in-law, "we are customers." "Customers are people invited or who have the ability to pay, ma'am," interrupted Mr. Thorne firmly. "Now please, leave this room. The owner of this building and owner of this penthouse has just arrived at the door. She wishes to carry out a surprise inspection and hates finding trash, or rather, unauthorized persons inside her private property." "The owner," repeated Jelani in a low voice. A glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. "Mr. Director, could I speak with the owner? Maybe she is a partner of mine. I know many entrepreneurs in the real estate sector. Tell her my name, Jelani. Who knows? Maybe she'll do me a favor." Kalina also regained her spirits. "Of course. Surely it's someone Jelani knows. The world of the rich is small. Tell her to come in. Mr. Director, let's talk among ourselves at the same level. See if your boss is going to scold you later for having kicked out a friend." Mr. Thorne looked at Jelani with an undecipherable expression, a mixture of pity and amusement. The corners of his lips curved slightly into an enigmatic smile. "How timely," said Mr. Thorne. "Turns out she knows Mr. Jelani very well, and even his family." Jelani's heart raced. Who could it be, he thought? The president of Bank X or the director of Group Y, maybe some old partner of his father's. "Well, tell her to come in already," urged Kalina, impatient, believing she had won the game. "What are you waiting for?" Mr. Thorne nodded discreetly to the security guard standing by the door. "Open the door wide. Welcome the president of the Onyx Tower." The large double doors opened completely. The light from the hallway projected the silhouettes of 2 figures standing imposingly in the threshold. The sound of thick-soled men's shoes was heard, accompanied by the echo of slow but firm heels. Jelani narrowed his eyes, trying to see the face of his expected savior. But the moment the figure entered the light of the room, Jelani's hopes shattered. His knees failed him completely. There was Zelani, not the humble Zelani, nor the weak Zelani. It was an imposing Zelani with her chin high, radiating an aura of absolute power. By her side, like a faithful protector, was Dakari. Kalina's eyes widened. It looked like they were going to pop out of their sockets. "You!" she shouted in a state of shock. Her trembling finger pointed at Zelani. "What are you doing here? Did you come to ask for a maid job?" Mr. Thorne interrupted her immediately with a loud and resonant voice. He introduced his guest with deep respect. "President Solani, Director Dakari, welcome. All staff are awaiting your instructions." Silence. A suffocating silence took over the room instantly. Time seemed to stop. Kalina stood with her mouth open. The mother-in-law froze with the bag of chips in her hand, and Jelani felt as if the floor beneath his feet had just collapsed, swallowing him whole. What broke the silence of the penthouse was not an explosion, but Kalina's sharp, forced, and strident laughter. She grabbed her stomach, cackling until tears came, as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. She pointed at Mr. Thorne and then, with a trembling finger, at Zelani. Oh, my stomach hurts. What actors! You deserve an Oscar," she exclaimed between forced laughs. She looked at Zelani with contempt. "Hey, miserable widow, how much did you pay this old man to say this building is yours? $100 or a sandwich? Seriously, your efforts to impress me are pathetic." The mother-in-law, who was previously in shock, caught Kalina's blind confidence. Her tense face relaxed, returning to her characteristic expression of disdain. She waved her hand in front of her face. "Phew, and I had believed it. Almost gave me a heart attack. Kalina is right. How is a nobody like Zelani going to own such a big building? If before she bought rice on credit, owning a luxury apartment, Zelani, wake up, child. Stop fantasizing." But Jelani wasn't laughing at all. His eyes were fixed on the diamond ring on Zelani's ring finger, on the authentic leather briefcase Dakari held, and on the aura of authority that no one could fake. Jelani knew Zelani perfectly. He knew she wasn't good at lying, and what scared Jelani the most was the genuine submission Mr. Thorne and Agent Vance showed towards Zelani. It wasn't an act, it was the pure respect of a subordinate towards their superior. "Kalina, Mama, shut up, please," whispered Jelani with difficulty, as if he were drowning. "Why shut up? Let's unmask this fraud," Kalina emboldened herself. She approached Zelani with her chin high. "Hey, Zelani, why don't you say anything? Are you ashamed that your lie got caught? Admit it. Surely you are a cleaner here and you stole the keys from the boss to give yourself airs. Oh, maybe you are the mistress of the old owner of this building." Mr. Thorne was about to reprimand Kalina for her insolence, but Zelani raised a hand indicating to her director to remain calm. Zelani didn't back up a step. She looked Kalina directly in the eyes, a look so serene but so sharp that it seemed to penetrate to the bottom of her soul. Slowly, Zelani smiled, not a kind smile, but a pitying smile. "Go on, Kalina," said Zelani with a low voice, but one that resonated clearly in the room. "Let out all the trash you have in that little head of yours. The more you talk, the more you are exposing yourself as the only ghetto person in this room." Zelani averted her gaze, as if Kalina no longer deserved her attention, and walked calmly toward the sofa where the mother-in-law had sat before eating chips. Zelani ran her fingertips over the leather surface of the sofa and saw the scattered crumbs. "Mr. Thorne," called Zelani without turning around. "Yes, President," replied Mr. Thorne quickly. "This Italian-imported Chesterfield sofa is stained with cheap food crumbs," said Zelani coldly. "Take note, replace this sofa with a new one immediately or donate it. I don't want an object in my penthouse that rude people have sat on." It was like lightning. The word hit directly in the mother-in-law's chest. The old woman's face turned red with shame and anger. "Look how she talks. You are calling me dirty. I am your ex-mother-in-law. You should kiss my hands instead of insulting me." Ex-mother-in-law. Zolani turned slowly. She arched an eyebrow. Excuse me, but if I recall correctly, 5 years ago, you yourself told me that I was nothing anymore and not to set foot in your house again. Under what pretext should I respect an intruder who dirties my property? Kalina, feeling ignored, shouted again. Hey, stop acting powerful. Where is the proof that this building is yours? Where? You are just a charlatan. Dakari, who had remained by his wife's side, finally opened the small briefcase he was carrying. He took out a thick folder of documents with a dark blue cover with a gold logo and threw it on the marble table in front of Jelani. Thud, the sound of the documents falling startled Jelani. Open it, Jelani, ordered Dakari firmly. Your wife needs proof. Read it out loud so she learns to read reality. Jelani's hands shook violently as he took the documents. His palms were soaked in cold sweat. He turned the first page. It was a simple note from the property registry and public deed in Solani's name, not just of one unit. Attached was the ownership certificate of the company that managed the entire Onyx Tower. Jelani's eyes widened like saucers, and his breath hitched. The letters on the paper seemed to dance, mocking his stupidity. How? How is it possible? Moaned Jelani in a low voice. His knees failed him. He couldn't support his own body and collapsed onto the floor. Kalina snatched the documents from her husband's hands. What's wrong, babe? Why have you lost your strength? She read what was written, and her eyes rounded perfectly. She turned the pages again and again, looking for a flaw, a trace of forgery, but everything was authentic. The notary's seal, the registrar's signature, and there Solani's name as sole administrator. This is fake. You forged the deed, accused Kalina hysterically, but her voice was starting to sound desperate. It's impossible. A starving nobody like you can't have all this. Not even Jelani, who has worked to exhaustion, can buy it. How are you going to be able to? Zolani approached the three of them, who now looked pathetic. Her steps were elegant, but they sounded threatening. The world turns, Kalina, Jelani, said Zolani softly, but sharply. Before, you discarded me like trash because I didn't have money. You called me a burden. You said I wasn't on your level. Zolani opened her arms, showing the luxury of the penthouse surrounding her. Now I am the owner of the building you coveted so much, the same place you bragged about on social media as if it were yours. And you are here like failed tenants who can't pay the deposit, with the credit card declined, insufficient funds, and the worst attitude. Jelani lowered his head deeply. Tears of regret began to appear in his eyes. His shame was now unbearable. He wished the earth would swallow him. He realized that the woman he had despised and abandoned for the wasteful Kalina was actually a woman capable of conquering the world. The mother-in-law, seeing the real proof, changed her attitude instantly. Her fawning nature came to light. She approached Zolani with a pitying face and tried to take her hand. "Zolani, my daughter," said the mother-in-law with a falsely sweet voice. "Honey, before was just a joke. I knew you would triumph. My prayers have always been with you. Oh, how proud I am that my daughter-in-law has become a great president." Zolani withdrew her hand before the mother-in-law touched her, as if avoiding something dirty. Her gaze was icy. "Stop the theater, ma'am. Tickets for that show are sold out." Zolani rejected her firmly. Kalina, seeing her mother-in-law fawn, felt even more cornered. Her great pride prevented her from admitting defeat. She threw the deed on the floor. "Bah, surely you got it with black magic or dirty money," she shouted blindly. "Jelani, let's go. I don't want to be in this cursed place anymore. It stinks of spiritual poverty." "One moment." Dakari stopped them when Jelani tried to get up with difficulty. Dakari looked at Jelani harshly. "You can go, but after resolving a matter." "What else now?" snapped Kalina. "You have entered private property without permission. You have caused a disturbance. You have dirtied the facilities, and you have verbally assaulted my employee," explained Dakari calmly. "Mr. Thorne, calculate the material and immaterial damages they have caused today. Include the cost of cleaning the sofa and the psychologist's fees for Mr. Vance for the hit with the brochure." Mr. Thorne nodded quickly. "Understood, Director. Compensation for damages is estimated at about $500. "What?" exclaimed the mother-in-law. $500? Thieves, we only sat for a moment." "Do you pay, or do we call the police for trespassing and property damage?" threatened Dakari coldly. "Choose. Do you pay the fine and leave quietly? Or do you leave escorted by the police and appear on the news as the family that made a scene in a luxury apartment because they didn't have money?" The threat of the news and the police instantly deflated Kalina's momentum. She was a vain person who cared a lot about her image on social media. If she went viral for being kicked out by the police, her social life would be over. "Papay, honey," stuttered Kalina, shaking Jelani's shoulder, who was still standing without strength. "Not the police. How embarrassing, honey." Jelani looked at his wife with empty eyes. "But where do I get the money, Kalina? My cards are empty." At that precise instant, in front of his ex-wife, Jelani felt he had hit rock bottom as a man. He couldn't protect, he couldn't pay, and he didn't have an ounce of pride left. Jelani watched the scene without excessive satisfaction, only a deep understanding that karma doesn't need to be sought. It finds its own address. The atmosphere in the luxurious penthouse felt colder and more sinister now than a morgue. Jelani's confession, that his cards were empty and that he didn't have a dime to pay the $500 fine, floated in the air like a thick black cloud. "Empty," repeated Kalina with a trembling voice. Her face, previously red with anger, was now pale. She looked at her husband with disbelief. "What do you mean, honey? Don't joke in an emergency situation like this. You are a businessman. You have a car, a business. What do you mean you don't even have $500? Jelani lowered his head even more. His shoulders slumped, as if he were carrying the weight of the world. He didn't dare look into his wife's eyes, much less Zolani's, who remained standing in front of him calmly. "The business is completely ruined, Kalina," whispered Jelani with a cracked voice. "You can barely hear the car. I pawned it last month to buy you that fake Hermes bag you wanted. The credit cards are all maxed out paying your social club fees. I don't have anything anymore." "What?" exclaimed Kalina and the mother-in-law in unison. Kalina immediately grabbed her bag and nervously rummaged inside to take out Jelani's phone. She demanded roughly that he unlock the screen. "Open it. I'm going to see your bank app right now," she shouted hysterically. Jelani, with trembling fingers, obediently opened the mobile app. Kalina snatched the phone from him and stared at the screen. The figure that appeared was not millions, nor hundreds of thousands, nor even thousands. Balance, $150. And below a notification of late payment for an online loan of $20,000 whose deadline was today. "Lies," murmured Kalina, losing strength in her hands. The expensive phone fell from her hands and crashed against the marble floor with a sharp sound. The screen cracked like Kalina's heart at that moment. "You have been deceiving me all this time. You said you were rich, a successful businessman, but you were just a broke loser." The mother-in-law, who was watching the situation, also began to get hysterical. She shook Jelani. "Jelani, tell me it's not true. How did you go broke supporting this one? Where are my savings that I lent you for the business? Don't tell me you spent them too." Jelani could only cry in silence. They were the tears of a man whose pride had been shattered in front of the woman he had abandoned, Zolani, and the woman he had idolized, Kalina. "I'm sorry, Mama. Forgive me, Kalina. I just wanted to make you happy." "I thought if our life was luxurious, luck would accompany us, but I was wrong." "You weren't wrong, you were crazy!" shouted Kalina, losing her mind. She hit him in the chest with her bag again and again. "Scammer, useless man! If I had known this, I wouldn't have married you. I regret it. I regret it so much." The scene was truly ironic. The family that barely 5 minutes ago boasted arrogantly of fake wealth was now attacking and blaming each other for money. Zolani watched the drama of their ruin with an impassive expression. There was no joy in her heart, only deep compassion. In the end, Jelani and his family lived in a hell they themselves had created, a hell called appearances. Enough! Zelani's voice cut through the commotion. It was calm but firm. Kalina stopped hitting. Her breathing was agitated. The tears had run her thick makeup, leaving her looking disastrous, like a clown in the rain. Zelani approached them. Look, $50, which is nothing to me, have been able to destroy the harmony of your family in a matter of seconds. It is truly pathetic. Zelani turned to Dakari. Honey, cancel the claim for damages. Dakari frowned. But Zelani, they... Cancel it, interrupted Zelani, softly but firmly. Demanding money from someone who doesn't know if they will eat tomorrow is like extorting a beggar. I don't want their money. Their money doesn't bring good luck. The expression, extorting a beggar, hit Jelani's face harder than any slap. He felt flayed alive. The ex-wife he had despised for being poor now pitied him, considering him little better than a beggar. Zelani looked back at Jelani. Keep the $150 you have left in the account well. Jelani, use them for a taxi home. The rental car downstairs surely has overdue payments too, right? Jelani nodded stiffly. His face burned with indescribable shame. I forgive you the $500 fine, continued Zelani. Her voice resonated majestically in the wide space. But on one condition. The mother-in-law, who was crying, raised her head immediately. Hope shone in her eyes. A condition? What condition, Zelani? If it's not money, I'll do whatever. Zelani smiled slightly, a smile that sent a chill down Kalina's spine. You cannot leave through the main door, nor use the VIP elevator, said Zelani, pointing to a back door near the kitchen. You have to leave through the freight elevator and the emergency stairs in the back. It is an appropriate path for those who arrived with a mask of lies and leave with failure on their backs, the freight elevator. Kalina's eyes widened. That elevator that trash collectors and construction workers use. I am not an influencer. I am not going down through such a dirty place. If you refuse, suit yourself, said Dakari indifferently, taking out his phone. In that case, the police and viral option is still on the table. I just have to press a button, and in 10 minutes the press will gather in the lobby to await the arrest of a scammer influencer and her bankrupt husband. Kalina's face paled instantly. Being labeled as a scammer and going viral was something she feared more than death. Pay, honey, she stuttered. No, don't call the police, she exclaimed, terrified. She turned to Jelani with a look of contempt. Let's go already. Our problem is not over. When we get home, you're going to get it. Mr. Thorne signaled to Mr. Vance. Mr. Vance, guide them to the back door. Make sure they leave the building through the side door that leads to the dumpster without stopping anywhere. Understood, Director, replied Mr. Vance firmly. There was a strange satisfaction on his face as he guided the people who had insulted him moments before.